debt is very personal. Some people do not like debt at all. And some people enjoy being in it because it doesn't bother them. The first thing goes back to budgeting. You start with that. When you start to live within your means, understand what income you have, what your outgoings are, and being aware of those things, you can build without debt. So as long as you take that loan, you've got to repay it. We need to live and make decisions, not just on our dream, but the reality of what is going on.
Today, we are tackling something everyone deals with, but few truly understand debt. Is it your best financial tool or your worst enemy? Let me find out from someone who knows the truth about good debt and bad debt. Welcome to Wisdom for Exploits. With me, your host, Bola Amore. Joining me today is a wonderful lady, Buki Mogaji. She is a chartered accountant, married with children. Before my guest introduces herself, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and drop comments. We need your comments. When you said your video is good, we like the topic, we want you to drop comments so that we know that our guests are human being, not zombie. So over to you, my guest. Please, can you introduce yourself to our audience and what inspired you to pursue a career as a chartered accountant?
Thank you for having me. My name again is Buki Mogaji, and I'm a chartered accountant. I've been a chartered accountant now for over 20 years. Wow. How did I become a chartered accountant? It's a interesting question. So I started off very much in secondary school, understanding all subjects. I liked every subject, and my friends in secondary school will probably relate to me and think, Buki would definitely be a medical doctor. I was that maybe smart, and I just enjoyed biology. But one of the things that I didn't like was blood. So very, very early on, I knew that was in my calling. So I became a chartered accountant, more so following my mother's footsteps. So my mom worked as a secretary within investment banking. And when I moved to the UK when I was 16, I just decided that's something I can do. It wasn't clearly defined, but I knew that whatever I put my heart to, I would do it. And so I went to university, reading accounting and finance. And then following that, I did my professional exams. So that's how I became a chartered accountant.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's a good one. That's a good one. So today, as I said, we're going to be focusing on the truths about good debt and bad debt. Majority of people, they say, I like these things, I want to buy it. Yeah, they have good mind, but sometimes I do ask questions. Why must people buy things in debt? Why should I say I want to travel for holiday and borrow money? Why should I want to have a party and borrowed money? So I know you're going to dig this for us. You're going to tell us, the why behind all this. So the first question is, what are some of the most common financial challenges you see individuals and businesses facing today?
Yes, that's a good question. So I think for individuals, I'll pick on a few things. So one is poor budgeting. And I wanted to obviously bust the myth that every accountant is very good in terms of finances. That's not quite true. So I think it's
really?
Yes.
Because I'm shaking my head.
Yes, very true. I think it's down to individuals, and it's also down to habits and financial tools, getting some kind of financial understanding and knowledge. So you can do something as a job, but might not be very good at it in your private life. And it's the same as doctors. Why are doctors or nurses overweight, as an example, and have bad health? There are so many reasons for that. So I think as individuals, a lot of the issues that we have is that we live above our means. And we have inadequate savings. So when something happens, everything falls to the ground because we have not planned and we don't have an emergency fund, we have not saved. And the key thing as well, as I mentioned, is budgeting. So no one is saying don't spend your money, but spend it within reason that you set out in the first place. So if you're earning a particular income every month, it should all be divided so that you know that when you're going out with your friends, you already have a budget for that and all other things as well. I guess for businesses, the key thing is obviously overgearing as well. A lot of businesses borrow money to do investments, which is fine. Because I'll come back to what debt is, because not everybody knows what debt is. So a debt is a borrowing where you borrow either from an individual or you borrow for a company and you pay that back with interest. That is what a debt is. So when we talk about whether it's good or bad, we need to first define what debt is, and that is debt. So for a business to borrow money to do an investment or expand their business isn't quite right. But when the operational cost is too high, or when they have limited access to good ways of borrowing debt, where the interest is too high and they can't afford to pay it back, then obviously those are challenges for businesses in this current market.
Wonderful. So what about individual? Because, when I first started, I said a lot, before I go into that question, I said a lot of people, they love to buy things. Even some want to buy things to show off to their friends, that, oh, I've arrived. So why do people have this mindset about, what, I have to borrow to do things? If it's for good things, yes, I know we're talking about good and bad debts.
Yeah.
Why do people have this mindset that, what, I have to do this. I have to do buy now, pay later. I have to buy this, I have to buy that. Why do people have that mindset?
So I personally think is environment. So the environment that we live in allows it. So for example, when you buy something with your card, it tells you, oh, you can spread it even if it's closed. So it gives you that illusion that because they're offering it to me, it's a good thing. And that's where we need to think about it. So I like the question, the way you framed it, a mindset. So a mindset is a set of values that we've conditioned ourselves to believe is true. It does not mean that it is truth. So I think the key thing is that what is our mindset set on? Because it's available doesn't make it right. And so we need to be changing that mindset that whoever we're buying for or showing off to actually does not care. When you're sleeping at night and when the debt collectors come knocking on your door, they're not going to be there. So the main thing is that we need to be changing our mindset to understand that although those things are available, the credit cards are available, the taking on debt above your means is available, it does not mean you should be taking it, because it's not a good thing for your health, both physical and spiritual as well.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for that. Okay, now we're going to go into our main business for today.
Right.
And before we go there, thank you once more for honoring this call. So, if debt has a such bad reputation, why do financially successful people still borrow money?
Okay, that's a very good question. I think it goes back to my definition of debt, right? Okay. So debt is borrowing, but then we borrow for various reasons. So some people borrow for investment so that money turns back more money for them. And some people borrow for consumer debt. The good example that you gave is to show off, right? Yeah. So yes, that's where we have the topic about what is good and what is bad debt. So for businesses, for successful businesses, they know that leveraging helps them to bring in more money. So if they have, for example, if a company or a business has an idea but they don't have the funds to do it straight away. But the idea, they know it's going to bring in money. They've done the calculations, they've done the finances, they've done the business plan. Then you can go ahead, borrow money, make that investment, and then gain the profit to be able to pay that interest on the debt back. So that is why successful businesses, even though we say debt is bad, it's not quite bad if you're using it to gain things back. So for example, investment, mortgages, investing into a business that turns around that money. Debt is very personal. Some people do not like debt at all. And some people enjoy being in it because it doesn't bother them. So I think a lot of it is thinking about yourself in terms of an individual and making sure that the decisions you're making, whether for your business, whether as an individual, it helps you to sleep at night. If it makes you worried, if it gives you anxiety, then you should not be getting into that, whether it's good or bad debt.
That's a wonderful. It's a debt is personal. And that's very true. Because a lot of people, you see, when they borrow, I don't know why sometimes when I ask some people, I said, you have all this credit card, you have all these loans. How do you cope? How do you cope? Because I'm so scared of debt. Very, very scared of debt. So some people, they have that peace. I don't know where they get it from. I don't know. So what is the biggest myth about debt that keeps people from building wealth?
Okay. I think the biggest one I would say is that debt is bad.
Okay.
Ever since we were younger, around, we hear that all the time. Oh, debt is bad, so don't get into it. But I don't think that's the truth. And it's not going to help you to build wealth. It goes back to the example that I gave about having a business idea. You can have a business idea. You can sit on it for so long that the timing passes you by because you don't have the money to do it straight away. Getting a debt is a bank loan, for example, when you've done your finances, when you've done the calculation that, okay, this is how I can repay back. You have to have a plan of how you repay things back. If that business is going to be profitable and return enough for you to pay back either on the terms that you've signed or even quicker, then you can go for it. You can build wealth without debt, but you can go faster with good debt. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Looking at it from a believer point of view, you see, what you said is 100% correct, which I believe that you can build wealth without debt. But a lot of people will tell you, how can that be possible?
Yeah.
And that's why I said a lot of people that lives in Africa, they don't have to get a loan sometimes to do what they want to do. Actually, majority, I don't know the ratio now, but prior to when I was young, let me say my teenage, growing up and all that stuff, I believe that at least if I want to rate it to what I know, people building wealth without debt, I would say 85% out of 100.
Yes.
But this day when you tell people, everybody have this mindset that I have to borrow.
Yes.
I have to be in debt. So why do we put the scripture that says, I will not borrow, but shall lend to many nations? And now I will go to this question. So how can I build wealth without debt? Especially the age we're living, or the part of the world we're living in.
Yeah, that's a very good one. So I think the first thing is, let's go back. I think I mentioned environment, and you mentioned Africa as an example. It's very true. When we were growing up, our parents had to save up till they were able to do those things and then build their house, buy a car, all of those things. But even then, as civil servants, I remember my father having a car loan as an example, where they deducted it from his salary. It's not new, but it's the way that we more so in this environment, that consumer mindset. I want it now. No one is willing to wait for the future. And it goes back, I'll give a very good example. When you go to the bank to either borrow for your business or to borrow to buy a house, the first thing the bank will ask you is, what do you have on? That's what is called a deposit. So there is no how you can build without first building individually. So that when you go out there, no one's going to borrow you 100% because you have not put your risk in. And putting your risk in means that you push for success because you've got a stake in it. So how do we build wealth without debt? The first thing goes back to budgeting. You start with that. When you start to live within your means, understand what income you have, what your outgoings are, and being aware of those things, you can build without debt. So I'll give a good example. When you get your salary, we use something called 50, 30, 20, 10 rule. And what that generally does is that it breaks down your income and says 50% of your income should be used on your needs. Your needs are your rent, your mortgage, your bills. Those are important things that need to go out first. So, for example, if you're living in a house or you have a mortgage where it's above 50%, then you've already broken that rule. And what happens is the other things that you're meant to do, so the 20% savings, the 30% on your wants, it starts to eat into that because you're already spending too much on your need. So it's important for us to build wealth well. We need to understand what is coming in. What do I have coming in terms of income, either from your business, from your job? And then the next thing is, what am I spending it on? Making sure that we're keeping track. That's where budgeting comes in. And the good thing is that there are so many tools now. There is no excuse for any one of us. So, for example, and I'm not selling this, but I've got a Monzo account. The Monzo account breaks it down for you. It tells you what's coming in, what you're spent in different categories. You can limit. So you have to be involved. And that is how you build well. You build it starting from ground zero, and then you can build it up definitely without debt. It might take you a while, but then you can sleep at night.
Exactly. That's a good one. But there's a question coming to me.
Yeah.
Is somebody listening to what you said now said to you, yes, I'm working, I'm getting paid, I have to pay my mortgage, I have to pay my rent, I have to pay my bill. The question is, what if the salary of that person can't even fix everything in the house? And the person is the breadwinner of the house. How can you build that wealth?
Yeah, I think these are, and we're living in that reality because that is, a lot of people's position. I think the first thing is you have to be honest, and honesty is key in terms of everyone in that family need to understand what is going on. There's no shame as a breadwinner saying, this is what I have. Everyone needs to contribute because it's a family. A family pulls together. So it might mean that, taking an example of that, if you have children that are maybe teenagers, is it the time for them to maybe go get a job so that the amount of money you're maybe using to buy them clothes, all of that can be picked up by themselves. But it's a conversation. So there should be no fear in us sitting around the table and having a conversation, a truthful conversation about where we're at. Because what it does is that it helps the breadwinner to learn, and it also helps the people around him to learn and to understand what is going on. The second thing is obviously thinking about other sources of income. Are there things that you can do? So a good example, and I'll use myself as an example. I'm an accountant by trade. So I have an employed job, but there are times that when it's, self-assessment time, I do self-assessment returns for people. I can do that and I can earn that extra income. So it's not about thinking about things that are not relating to what you do, because it comes easy when it's things that are relating to what you do already. So if you're good at baking, you can bake. If you're, I'm not very good at baking, so I can't sit here and say, oh, my next extra income should be baking, because the time is going to take me and the money to go learn the skill. I might as well do something I'm already good at. So those are the kind of things that we can think about. And I remember a few friends that I know that did Uber Eats during COVID, and they used that to raise some money and as a deposit for their homes. So there are different things that maybe we can, and it's understanding, making sure that the family understands the circumstances. So if that breadwinner is doing extra work, everybody is chipping in and everybody is obviously helping along the way. But I think the key thing is know your numbers. Figures don't lie. So you need to understand what you're spending. What is your outgoing? Where is your money going? It's very important that we understand that. And then you can now decide, are there things in that outgoings that are not necessary? Some of it might be subscriptions. A lot of us do that. We start January, we go register at the gym, but we never go. So cutting that out could pay for something else. And I think that's the key, really, of that. That's the answer to those questions. So I hope I've answered it properly.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. But I'm just thinking that what about a mom that is working from home and he has a baby? But I think anyway, you said they can do something, because there's so much circumstances that people can give a good excuse that this is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's not that I really want to get into that bad debt. But now I'm a mom. I have little baby. My children are not teenager yet or young adults that can go and look for a job. My husband is not doing what he needs to do. So this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm just using this as a scenario, because this could be like somebody scenario.
Can I pick on that? So I think about the many things that we have even in our homes that we can use to generate money. I'm not sure whether you've noticed, but where I live in Kent, we have something called boot sale or boot fair. And every Sunday, everyone's, a lot of people are out there selling their old stuff. But that doesn't come to us as why not? So for that young mom, it could be going through your wardrobe, going through your home and thinking, I haven't used this for 5 years. Why am I keeping it? Let me sell it on vintage. And you'll be surprised what little income you can get initially from doing things like that. And another thing could be, I don't know, some people like dogs, walk a dog. Do a babysitting experience with your baby. You can also babysit other people's children. There are different ways. I guess there's an adage that says, if there is a will, there's a way. And sometimes we give too many excuses of the why not. We never think about what can I do? It's always I can't do it because of, and we list all the reasons why we cannot. But I think it's also important to put that aside and think, well, what can I do? What do I have that I can, rather than I cannot?
That's a good one. That's a very good one. There's always a way.
Yes.
If we can just sit down and reflect.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So how can someone tell the difference between a loan that is creating value and one that is quietly destroying their finances?
I was thinking about this question. I think that there might be a few things to consider. So thinking about the loan is that, does this loan buy me an asset, or does it buy me a temporary desire? So for example, you gave an example of getting a loan to do a party. It's a temporary desire. It does not buy you an asset. Afterwards, when the people go, that's it. It's over. You have not gained an asset that is bringing you money more regularly. But then a loan to buy a property, for example, is that over the course of the years, that property may increase in value, most likely, especially if you live in certain parts of the world. The value of the properties increase. So you can get a loan to buy an asset that increases in value, but then, so that's the question you have to ask yourself when you're taking a loan. And then another question is, will it generate income? So you can buy a property and rent it out, and it's generating income for you. That's an asset. And then, is it increasing my earnings? So if you take a loan to do something that increases your earnings, then that is also a good thing as well. And the key thing is, can I comfortably repay it? If something happens, I lose my job, I don't have, can I comfortably repay that loan? Because as long as you take that loan, you've got to repay it. If you don't repay it, then it becomes a bad debt, and then it becomes the fact that you can't repay the loan, and then they take you to CCJs and all of those things that obviously mess up your credit as well. So it's very important that we're asking those questions around the loan so that it does not destroy our finances or our long-term goals.
Okay. Because I know sometimes African people, when they get a loan for party, I've come across some people, they will say, you know what, when I do the party, I will get the money back.
Yeah.
And I'll be thinking, wait a minute, are you having a party because people will pay you money, but they will spray you at the party? Because I don't know, some people have this mentality. What if the money they spray you is not even up to the money?
Yes.
Anyway, how will you advise somebody like that has this mentality that if I'm having a party, I'm having a party, I want people to come and eat,
enjoy,
and I'm not expecting that, okay, the money I spend, they're going to give it back to me. Because sometimes you could be you might be disappointed, the money you spend, nobody even give you nothing. You understand? So as an accountant, how do you advise such people? I know you've explained that, good loan. I mean, there is a loan that, it give you value. There is a loan, that it doesn't give you value. You understand? So this loan that doesn't give value, and people still put their head into it.
Right. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is I'll just send them to the doctor to check their head, because what can you do? I think a lot of these things is it might be traditional. It might be what we, what our background and what we've grown up to accept. Yes, but I think more and more, you have to understand that even the people that you're expecting to give you back are also struggling, especially in this, in this economy. There's a lot of, people's mortgages are higher, interest rate is high, cost of living is high. So we're not even thinking about you. So I remember my parents live in Nigeria, and my mom was saying to me, oh, nowadays if anyone invites us to a party, we have to calculate. We decide, am I better off by the time I buy fuel into the car, go all the way, stay in a hotel, do the calculation? Maybe it's cheaper for us to just give them a token and then not bother. And that is the reality. More and more people are thinking like that. So you cannot, put your eggs in the basket of people are going to give me my money back, because they have not sent you to have that party. It's your choice, and they don't have the responsibility to cover the cost for you.
That's a good one. Can a good debt eventually become a bad debt? What warning signs should people watch for? Yes, so I've taken a loan to buy a property, or I've taken a loan to get a shop.
Yeah.
What's it called? Off license.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the business collapsed.
Yeah.
So that means the good debt has now turned to bad debt.
Bad debt, yeah.
So what warning sign should people watch for?
I think if you're going to get a loan, you need to understand the repayment terms and you need to have a plan around it. So some of the plans is also having savings. If you don't have savings and things turn, what are you going to do? So that is one thing I would advise people. So make sure that you have an emergency savings so that if anything happens, you can always use that to cover the loan repayment. When you start to miss payments as well, those are warning signs that that debt is becoming a bad debt. And then borrowing to pay off existing loans without a plan. So there's a lot of, especially with credit cards, 0% interest for 18 months. So you take that to pay off another credit card. But what you should be doing is having a plan for that 18 months that you want to clear that and stop spending on your current credit card. And I know that it's easy said than done when people are struggling, when life is very tight and there's no there's no leeway. And a lot of people are in that situation now in this economy. But it's very important that you talk to someone. There are so many agencies out there that can help you consolidate your loan, talk to the people that you owe, and give you a break, if that makes sense. But most importantly, you need to fix your habits, because habits are the key thing. So if you're in constant financial stress, your credit card balances keep increasing, then those are, that is going from a good debt to a bad debt, and that will cause financial strain here.
Wow, that's a good one. You mentioned repayment plans. I don't even know there are some credit cards that offer free 18 months, don't pay, and you use it to clear people. Anyway, yes. People that enter into that wahala, they understand better. But anyway, you've said it. Let's just move on, because I was just thinking that what about people that, they don't have these savings, they want to do this business, they've invested, because I've seen quite a lot, whereby people say, okay, I want to go for this contract. They borrowed, they used all they had, or they've accumulated over the years from their own personal, savings. Yeah. They use it to pump it into that particular contract. Now, some people will even use their house to stand for the loan. What about in that scenario? What can they do when the whole thing now collapse?
So there are a few things. So I'll start with, what should we not be doing before we go into some of these businesses? Because I think
some men, they don't think like we do what you are thinking. Because some men will say, I want to eat it. When this thing come out, it's going to cost me billions of pounds. It's going to cost me billions of whatever currency they are expecting.
Yes. And I think that I always say there's a difference between dreaming and reality. And I think it's very important, and I was speaking to the audiences that would listen. There will be people that don't listen. But I think the main thing is that you have to separate reality and dream, because anything that we do needs to have a leg for us to stand on. Your bank, I always use this example. When you're selling a property in the UK, the agents that you call will say, oh, your house is so beautiful, I can sell it for this amount of money. And they big it up. And it's fine, because the agent wants to sell it as high as possible to get their own commission. But who determines how much that house costs? Can you give me an example, Auntie? Who would determine that? Thinking about that process.
Okay.
Will it be the buyer?
You, the seller, should determine that this is the amount I want to sell my property.
Yeah.
then you still have to look at what the market rate is.
Yes.
Yeah, you might say that I want to sell my house for 1 million pounds. But if the market rate is 800,000, what do you want to do? So if
Exactly.
the market,
So you, the seller, starts off with this dream. I want to sell my house for 1 million because I, when I get it, I'm going to retire in the sun and life will be good. And then you look around, and then you look around your you look around your street. The houses, average houses like yours, is selling for 800,000. Yeah, so it means that your dream and reality is. And then the next step is that when someone comes and wants to buy it, there's the economy is quite tight. They don't offer you 800,000. They now offer you 700,000. Wow. That's another layer. And then they now go to the bank and say, bank, I want to buy this property. I love the property. I've offered this. Well, the seller still says 800, and then the bank says, well, we can only borrow you 650 because the house is only worth 650. Wow. Can you see the dream? There's a dream and there's a reality. And so we need to live and make decisions, not just on our dream, but the reality of what is going on. So you're right. The seller now decides, am I still going to hold on to that dream of 1 million? Or am I going to actually sell it because I need to move and all I can get is 650 or 700? So, and that is the battle that we have to have when we go into businesses. In our community, a lot of us do business because my auntie said, my friend said they've done well in it. We don't do any background checks. We don't look back and think, how am I going to pay this off? What are the things I can do? How am I going to even market it so that it works well? We cannot, and I know that, and that's where we're different. Some people take risk and some people don't. But the reality is that when you're taking risk, it needs to be a calculated risk. You need to be able to decide, okay, if this goes wrong, what is my fallback? What is my backup plan? And I think that's important that, as you said, there are people that don't listen and they get burnt. But for those that would listen, my advice would be, do your research. Yes, decisions are made and you can get things wrong. And that's fine. You've got to live with that. We all need to live with that every single day. But that doesn't mean you should not take risk. That doesn't mean you shouldn't invest, but make sure it's calculated. You don't put all your eggs in one basket, and it might be good to do it one step at a time.
Life is a risk. Even you're going to work, waking today, this is Saturday. It's true. Life is a risk. This is Saturday. You've already been planning about tomorrow, Sunday. You are planning about Monday. Now I'm going to go to work. Am I going to get a train or am I going to drive down? The weather is hot. Life is a risk. Do you know people that are planning? Even a lot of people are planning to travel now. You don't even know the country you are running to because UK weather is extremely hot.
Very true.
Even you planning party is a risk. So why will you not take a calculated risk?
Yes.
So, okay. There is something that really come up with me now. I've had a lot of some men and women of God, which they don't believe in loans as well. Yeah. Either to buy property or to do things, which is okay because they believe in their religion. Even I came across a guy, he's what's it called? He's a cab driver. Right. So he picked me up from somewhere, I think from central London. I think I went to central London that day and I was coming back home. And this guy was driving Tesla. So he's a nice Uber driver. So he was now telling me that, he lives in East London. I said, that's cool that, you're not far from this area. So he was looking at my area. I said, yes, you can come to my area. My area here is nice. So why am I bringing this? And that was when I realized that even the people of other religion, they don't go into debt.
Yeah.
He was the one telling me that if you don't have your money, that is forbidden or something like that in their religion to buy with debt. I was like, wow. That's why you see they come together and help each other.
Absolutely.
Which is very good. But I don't know that. I don't think they teach that in Africa. Yeah. Anyway, but now you're saying the reality, there's difference between reality and dream, which is 100% perfect. But as a believer, let me now ask this question. As a believer that want to buy a property,
yeah,
and your deposit is not even up to what the property worth, and you have trusting God, doing the little you can do. We know the reality is that is either you go for, that is what the mentality of people is, that you go for mortgage, you get people to give to you, or just look for a legitimate way to get it.
Yes.
How can that reality come to reality?
I think that, I'm a believer, and I haven't read that there are places in the Bible that talks about a borrower being a slave to the lender.
Yeah.
And it's true, but there's nowhere that says explicitly don't borrow. All it says is that
he said, it did say don't borrow.
Yes.
The Bible does not say don't borrow. He said the only thing you're owing people is to love them.
Exactly.
And when you borrow, you need to repay. You need
Absolutely.
to have
that's it. And that's why I said you have to have a repayment plan. So it doesn't say where it becomes bad and possibly a sin is if you borrow, you run away. That is not right. And a believer should not be doing that. You should not be borrowing from people and not repaying, because the Bible says you must repay all your debt. But I think, in going back to your question, the way that person can do it is two ways. You already have a small deposit. It's two things. You trust God by praying that it would increase, and it does happen. And the way that sometimes those things happen is that the house that you're buying, that person might decide, I'm dropping the price. That is a God factor. You've done your bit of having a little bit of the deposit, and then God gives that a way out in that situation. The other way is also to have people gift you some of the money to increase your deposit. But if it's a gift, that means the person doesn't want it back. But if it's also a loan between maybe family, then you have to have a mindset of repayment plan. How do I pay this back? And it goes back to what I said, that if you cannot afford it, then you should not be doing it in the first place. Because the strain and the stress when the interest rate increases or anything happens is not because then you're more likely to default on the loan and have, borrowers that you've upset. So it's very important that you work out the numbers. If it's more expensive, when you look at your 50, 30, 20, 10 rule, and it's more than 50%, then you should not be doing it. Go buy something smaller. Go buy do you understand? Go buy a 1-bedroom instead of a 2-bedroom. Go outskirts. We're not tied. We're not trees. We don't have to stay in London.
True.
You can move. You can, to somewhere that is a little bit cheaper. If buying a home is your long-term dream. And going back to the culture where you were talking about, where people pull together, some of them live in homes, generation, grandmother, parents, children with their husband, everybody living in that home. It's not because of their choice, but they're trying to help to save money so that other person can move on. And those are the kind of relationships as well that we want to have within kingdom and within believers, where we can pull together, but the heart of it is love, and the heart of it is knowing that you're not going to default and you're not going to make that person regret ever helping you. So I hope I answered that question.
That's cool. That's good. Thank you. So why do so many people end up trapped in a debt even when they have a stable income?
Why do?
Yeah, they have this stable income, but they are still trapped.
In
They are
debt.
very, very, yeah, in debt.
I
There are
think
so
it's,
many people.
yeah, there's so many people. Many people, I say they're only a paycheck away from going into bankruptcy. I think a lot of it is you have to live within your means. You need to understand your outgoings. You cannot be an emotional spender and have wealth. You have to know all the figures that are going in and out, and hence the budgeting. Because if you don't know, one of the things, if there's anything I want people to take out of this podcast, is go and write it down. Figures don't lie. This is how much I have. This is all my credit cards. When you start to write it down, you start to see how big it is, and then you have a plan of dropping it down. And a lot of the plan is you call them, you call your credit card people, you call the people you owe. This is how much I have. In this country, at least I can speak for United Kingdom, they do help you. Their heart is to help you to pay that debt. So if you're going back and don't pay the minimum, don't ever pay the minimum payment. You're never going to get out of debt. Educate yourself. Financial education is so important. Never just, it's like sitting in like a revolving door and not coming out. There is a way. One day you need to stop and say, I'm getting out. It's a decision. And that decision would mean, being tight. It might mean that you start to shop in Aldi instead of Marks and Spencer. It might be that you start to wear the same clothes for the next 3 years and nobody cares. You're wearing clothes, they're clean.
Exactly.
So I think that it's a change of mindset to say, I need to get out of it's a trap. And we need to get out of the trap. The way you get out of the trap is firstly honesty, understanding your figures. What do I have? What is going out? Where do I owe this? Why am I still spending the credit card? Don't go on holiday if you have not saved the money to go on holiday.
That's true.
Or if you're going to buy it on a credit card, then you have a plan of before you go on that holiday, you've already paid it month by month.
That's a wonderful one. So, who are the emotional spenders? My question is funny, isn't it?
No, it's I think
I'm adjusting I'm adjusting my seat as well.
I think we can all fall into that emotional spending. I am unhappy, I have to spend. I am happy, I've got to spend.
But what about people that doesn't even care about buying clothes, buying shoes? Are you getting it?
Yes.
Or their mentality is just like, what? I just want food to be in my house.
Yes.
They don't care about, maybe you are even having a party, they want to buy your party dress. No, they are happy with what they have. Are you getting? They're happy with what they have. So what about those? Because we have different categories. I know we're talking about good and bad debts. Yeah. And I'm not justifying people that are not disciplined.
Yes.
Like you said, yes. If I spend credit card, I know I have it in mind at the end of the month, the amount I spend, I'm going to clear it off.
Yes.
If I cannot clear it off at a go, I can clear it off at least in 2 installments or 3 installments. And that's not the minimum, because that minimum, people say I paid the £5 they asked me to pay. £3, you are damaging yourself. That's the truth of the matter. Yeah. I'm not an accountant, but when it comes to that one is just a common sense.
Yes.
You understand what I mean? You don't pay minimum charge because by the time the bill comes again, it's going to be more.
Exactly. And the interest.
Exactly. The interest is getting more and more.
Yes.
So what about somebody said, okay, me, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't party, apart from maybe once a while. But the only thing I just want is that I just want family to be comfortable, food at home. You understand? So what about those kind of category of people?
And I think that is fine. But I know a lot of people that do that. You buy in bulk, and half of the time you throw the food away. That's wastage.
That's
So when you look at your bin and you see all those things, that's money that you're throwing down the drains. So I think a lot of it, we need to fix our emotions. And how do we do that? Is accepting that these are the things that trigger me. These are the, and a lot of us maybe, a lot of people that I find is that when they were younger, they didn't have a lot. So when they now become where they have more, they never want anybody to be hungry. So we have to fill the house and blah. And then half of the things, especially if you're doing it for your family, 1 minute they like Cocoa Pops, the next minute they've gone off it, but you've already bought
thousands of Cocoa Pops
from Costco.
From Costco.
Hey, so you start to,
and the children are changing like time. In like UK weather.
Exactly.
One minute is conflict. Another minute, no, is Weetabix. Now they don't want Weetabix anymore. They want them.
So it's very important that we understand the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Are we doing it to please ourselves? Are we really doing it to please the people around us? So it's very important that, for people like that particular example, I want food in the house. Is it food you're going to eat? Do you need it now? Do you really need to go and spend that £200 in Addis and buy the Orishi? Yet they're telling us, watch your everything in moderation, because when you have it at home, you're forced to eat it. And then you wonder, oh, my weight is going up. The doctor says I need high blood pressure. So all of these things is balance. So we need balance in all that we do. So I think it's reflecting where things are getting too extreme. We need to bring it back into the center of things. And as believers as well, is praying about it, asking the Holy Spirit to help us. Because that's how we fix some of these things. Because sometimes it's like, okay, I want sugar, but maybe that time you're feeling, maybe that's the time to put on a worship music. That's the time to go for a walk. If you're an emotional, you're very sad, because some people, I know people like that. The way that they cope with their emotions is to go shopping. They buy what they don't need.
No, that one is,
and it's a serious thing. They go to the shop and just buy, and then the house is filled up. It's all it's all choking. But those are the times that maybe is the time to start going to the boot fair and getting rid of all those things, or asking yourself, have an accountability partner. That when something like that happens, you're calling them to say, oh, this is how I feel. And then maybe you have a conversation, they talk you out of it, and then you move, go for counseling. These are things that we don't talk about in our community, but we need to, there's no shame. There's no shame in these things, but we need to be fixing that, because you're not going to create wealth when you're just buying. And I'll give you a very good example. When my kids were a bit younger, someone told me about bulk buying, and for me, I've never really, because I think I just feel overwhelmed when I've got everything in the house is full of stuff, and you just have this urge that we have to eat it all. So I've never really been someone that maybe I buy certain things in non-perishable things in stock, but not perishable things. Anyway, so when my kids were younger, someone told me about Buka. I thought, oh, that's a good one. But then I noticed. Yes. And then I noticed something. When the kids were younger, it would be have a packet of crisps, go to school, and that's it. But because it is at home, when they come back, and then they take another one, because it's there. And it's in eye shot. So you start to wonder, okay, they used to just have one, and now they're eating more. So I wasn't really saving any money, because it was there and it was an easy thing to maybe pick up rather than go make something proper to eat. So those are the kind of things that we need to watch our habits. Sometimes we say we're buying to save money, but we're actually wasting things. So it's thinking about those things and reflection, making sure that we reflect at the end of the month. You look at what you spent on food. You look, because if the especially and I talk to people, maybe now that it's summer holidays and children are home, they eat and all of that. You know what? If it's not there, maybe they'll drink water and go play outside. So it's that balance. So I think
they'll not tell you, mommy, we need holiday. And maybe you only went for 2 weeks holiday. Then you have to take them to another one.
Exactly. And
I think with that
Yes.
it's just wisdom. You just look at what, for people that still have younger kids.
Yes.
I think it's just what you know what your kids likes.
Yes.
You understand that, okay, this one is not that today we are switching to cocoa potty, as you said, tomorrow, and they say we don't like that anymore. And you see that, who is going to eat it? Me, I don't eat cocoa. You understand? And say no, now is Frosties. Or tomorrow they said is this. So I think when they get older, then the shopping things start getting normal.
Yes.
Because you know that this is what they like. This is what they don't like. You
Yes.
understand?
Yeah.
So anyway, back to our question. We mentioned about emotional spender. You did mention that few things that why, I mean, some people we need counseling as well, you know, emotional spender, because some people, the way their feelings, so they think that what can ease it is because they have to go shopping and buy shopping. That's why I don't like going out. If I go out, I shop. But I shop something that, because my brain is calculating that, okay, what else is not home? What else is not home? You know, how does debt, affect person's mental health, relationships, and overall qualities of life beyond just money?
How does that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's all about, we've talked about it. It's all about the financial stress. Even within relationships, marriages, friendship, finances can be an issue. And so where there are debts, it starts to affect you. Over time, you start to feel depressed. When those letters come, you don't want to open it. When the bills come or when you're overwhelmed, it starts to eat and grind at you. So that's how it affects you personally. And then that it also affects the people around you when you feel like you cannot cope. So I think it's important that, we are honest, we take stock, and then we're honest about how these things does affect. And I'm sure, you're a pastor, and one of the things that people come and they're constantly asking, oh, can you pray for me about debt cancellation? All of that. Where does that say that in the Bible? You've got to pay off your debt, and you should not be in that cycle constantly. God helps you, maybe someone helps you and you pay off one day, and then you're again online borrowing. You haven't broken that cycle. And it affects your family. It affects your children. It affects your friendships. There are people, and we all need to have financial tools and knowledge. It's not just people that are poor that struggle with financial stress. Even people that are rich, footballers, all those people that have been in money. How do you get from being, in money to not having at all? How do you get there? The way you get there is because you just spend it lavishly. You have all those people around you. You're not taking stock of what is going on, and that's how you can, that the pendulum can swing. So I think a lot of it does affect. Debt affects people. It affects marriages. It affects. You can lose your home. You can have bad credit, so you can't do anything. You can't own a business. It might mean that you have to relocate to another country if you're what's the word? Where they what's the word I'm looking for? Where you're bankrupt. Because if you're bankrupt, you cannot be a director of a company. You cannot own a business. So it's very important that we understand the magnitude of what debt does, and we take awareness of it, and decide for ourselves that we need to do better. Even where the environment says it does not matter, we need to do better. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think with the mental health issue, sometimes majority of these, I know there are people that are not disciplined,
Yes.
100%. But majority, I won't say majority, I will say some people, it could be pressure.
Yes.
Pressure that maybe it's only one person
Yes.
in the family taking the whole responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah, it could be. Because I remember sometimes a friend was saying that somebody husband came to her and said, please, can you advise my wife to go and get a job?
A job.
Because he's getting tired. He has to be the one doing everything. And it could be vice versa as well. So sometimes the pressure could come if only a single person
is carrying all the burden.
carrying all the burden, taking all the responsibility. Okay, so yeah, it could be sometimes. So sometimes that really affects, because there was a discussion one time on our forum, and this is about marriage, and people were just talking. And I think this particular lady, because the way the lady was just talking, that some of the guys in the forum were saying that, you need to respect actually, there was a video that a lady was, the way she was doing to the husband and all that stuff. So he said, oh, this is how all women should behave. And somebody flared up from the forum and said, no, respect is hen. Is not something you just get like that. If you don't give it, you don't have it. And so they started talking, testing, talking to each other. And he said, how can you tell me to respect a man that will sit down in the morning, put on DSTV, or how do they call it in Africa? Put the leg on the table. The woman is the only one running helter-skelter. So those are the kind of things, if that is the case for some people,
Yes.
that would be an issue as well for mental health to chip in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. They might be sweeping it under the carpet, but truly it's eating up the other person. It could be vice versa.
Yes.
Yeah. If I had to rank mortgages, student loans, business loans, cars loans, credit card, from the healthiest to the most dangerous one, how would you rank them and why?
Okay. Okay. So I'll start with business loan. Because I think if it's invested wisely, it can generate income. So that would be my number one. The second one would be mortgages, because they help people to acquire property, and over time that property would appreciate, and so that's a way of generating wealth. Student loan will be my third, and I think this is debatable because it depends on the degree or what you're actually studying. Because what student loan does in terms of education is that it can increase your future earning capacity. So if you do a good degree, then your earnings are higher. So I think that's a good one. My last two will be a car loan. So I think cars normally depreciate, but the only way that maybe it can be a little bit higher is if it generates income, if it's a commercial car. So you're doing Uber as an example, rather than a private car where it just depreciates. And the last one, which is the worst one ever, is the credit cards debt. And I think that's very dangerous because the interest is very, very high. Interest rates are high. And it makes repayment of it, especially when you do the minimum payment, it makes it very, very difficult for you to ever pay back. So it's important that when you get a credit card, if you're not a disciplined person, you should not be having a credit card. If disciplined, you should have a plan of how you pay it off. Like you say, every month you clear it off, or you have a plan of, okay, I've spent this amount of money over the next 2-3 months. I'm going to, pay back, because the interest rates are so high that a big chunk of it, you're just going around in circles.
Exactly.
And if you're not careful, it can be quite dangerous.
That's a good one. That's a very good one. Especially the car and the credit card. The bad one. What financial habit should one develop before taking any debts?
I would say save consistently. You need to be a saver before you take on debt. You need to learn how to save. I've talked about this before, but when you borrow, you need to have a repayment plan. You need to have a plan of how you repay it back. Don't believe that it will go away. Don't pray for debt cancellation. Have a plan. Have a plan of how you pay it back. Pay your bills on time is also a good, if you are very good at paying your bills on time, then obviously taking on debt it will be easy. Maintaining a budget, that's important, because, for example, if you want to get a mortgage, you have a deposit, you need to know how much you can actually be paying on a monthly basis. When you know that, then it's easy for you to say, okay, I want to go get 80% of that, because I've got 20%, 80% I can borrow through a loan. And lastly is avoiding impulse buying or spending. If you don't need it, I once listened to someone that said this, which is I like it, and I sometimes do it. If I feel like, I want to buy something, I put it in the basket. And then I don't buy it straight away. I can leave it 2-3 days. And if I still feel the need that, maybe I still need it, then I'll pay for it. And that's quite good, because if you're not feeling it after 2-3 days, it's probably just emotion. I just feel like it. I saw it on someone, a dress, and I like it. So that is obviously very good as well. So, avoiding impulse buying is one of the tools to obviously have before you start to, borrow or get a loan.
That's a good one. That answers my next question, because about young adults when using credit card for the first time. So it's not about this is my money, because that's the mentality people have when they see that 4,000K. The credit card is given, they say, this is my money.
Nope.
So it's not their money. So with what you've mentioned, to wrap it up, we just answer that one for the young adults. So for young adults, credit card, you need to be disciplined. Yes. Once you get it, it is not your money.
That's it. And it's not extra income.
It's
don't follow peer pressure.
It's not holiday money, because by the time you go for holiday, you are coming back to meet your bill at the door.
Yeah. And make sure, can I just say one last thing?
Yeah.
For the young people, either for debt or credit card, make sure you read the agreement. Make sure you read the agreement and you understand what you're getting yourself into.
That's very important. That is very, very, those tiny words.
Yes.
They're very, very important. So how can someone who is already overwhelmed by debt begin rebuilding their financial future without losing hope? Sometimes we live in this part of the country whereby a lot of people, they believe that once they have so massive or huge amount of debt, what they believe is that they just want to end it. Yeah, we've seen quite a lot of people like that. You're going to work on Monday morning or Tuesday, and they disrupted the train.
The trains,
yeah, exactly. They know what they want to do. So how can someone who is already overwhelmed by debt begin rebuilding their financial future without losing hope?
Yeah, I think the first thing, and I mentioned it before, please get in touch with the people you owe and tell them what you're going through. One of the agencies that I can recommend is the what's the name? They're usually on the high street. If I remember, I'll come back to that. But they can help you. There are templates out there where you can use to write to the people that you owe and tell them, this is how much I can afford to pay. And over time, they will support you in clearing that debt. So don't take on new debt. All the consolidate, take from here to pay debt, you're just creating more and more headache for yourself. Stop taking any new debt. Go to the people that you owe and have a plan with them. If, for example, they're expecting you to pay £500 and you've only got 50 when you've looked at your budget, say that to them. This is how much I have. By law, they should accept it and leave you alone. And then that obviously reduces the pressure over time. Renegotiate any high interest debt as well. Go back to the people. You can't hide away from it. Have a conversation, and have a budget. How much are you earning? What can you realistic when you've taken away your need, that 50% or more, your rent, your bills, how much is left and how much realistically can you give to servicing that debt? When you've understood that, then you can obviously go and get people to help you, or the people you owe to help you to say, this is how much I have. I think the name came to me. It's gone again. I'm so sorry.
Okay, don't worry. We can put that in. We can include that in the video later.
Okay. And the other thing is increase your income. Find a way of increasing your income, because if you increase your income, then you can obviously start throwing it, a snowball effect. So think about when I talk to people about debt, clearing their debt, is the first thing is write it all down, because when you start to see it, you understand what is the interest. Look at the biggest interest, tackle that first, and celebrate when you've done those things, because these things we were not taught. It's not taught in schools, even for young people. Social media is where everyone is getting their information from. So the key thing is, and social media is so overwhelming. You see everybody beautiful, big house, big car. You start to get drawn into all those things. So don't do that. It doesn't matter. Wear what you have, live where you can. If you've been living in your house for 20 years, nobody likes it, they shouldn't come visit you. It's okay. You learn to be satisfied in yourself. Be able, I say to people, if anybody knocks on my door, I open it with my full chest. Can I help you? I hold nobody, and that should be our utmost desire. So if you're in debt, stop taking new debt, renegotiate, and put a budget in place. Find extra income so you can start to throw it at that debt. And it is possible. I've seen many people come to freedom. It's freedom, it's freedom to have no debt outside of, the regular things that we talk about, like business loans and your mortgage.
Wonderful. Thank you. A question is coming to me, and okay. I want you to answer that question before my next question. We round it up.
Okay.
The question is, what about somebody that is not, maybe they have a loan, or they are in debt. Let me put it that, maybe they are in debt before they lost their job, and now they are on government support.
Yeah,
you understand? Let me say they are on UC, and now they have that debt on the way by the side. So how can they come out of debt?
It goes back to what we said, Ma, that where there is a will, there's a way. So
when I say, okay, now, some people, they lost their job. It could be for health reason.
Yeah.
You understand? They are on PIP, they are on UC. How can they come out of debt?
And I think a lot of it, you go back. So there are agencies that help. So Christians Against Poverty is one agency that I know that they can support. But you have to go to those debt people, the people you owe money, and you have to explain your situation. Does that make sense? And it goes back to what I'm saying about they could say, oh, pay us £10, but you're still paying it. After a certain period of time, that is where maybe some debt cancellation comes in. They can turn around through prayer and through favor and the mercy of God and say, that's it. You've made an effort. It's the making of the effort. Because there are, I'm an accountant. We see in people's books, they say bad debt is not collectible. They've written it off. It does happen. So I think the most important thing is engaging. Engage with those people. Engage with those types of agencies that support you in talking to. If you're not sure what to do, the template to use, how do I write a letter? How do I write an email? Engage with those. I'll try and list a few names of agencies that we can add to the recording for people to reach out to them and see how they can help.
Okay, that's fine. So that means the same advice goes to the person that can do things but they're in debt, and the one that lost their job based on whatever, and now they're on the mercy of
the government. Yes.
Okay. But what about people that don't have debt and they want to do so many things? They want to start a business, they don't have where to start. They are on the mercy of government. They want to buy property, they're on the mercy of government. How could they go about it?
Start one brick. How do you build a house? One brick at a time. One thing at a time. One thing at a time. No one is saying don't dream. But the reality is that you have to do it one thing, one step at a time. Building a business, at least the businesses that we've seen that has been successful, some people start baking from their kitchen. And then before you know it, they're able to buy a commercial property. And it's the same. I'm not saying don't dream big. Have that dream of big, but you start little and you build yourself. Because where people, and why it's important to build slowly, so that whatever mistakes you make, you're able to correct it. But True. If you've already put the big stuff in there, when the mistake comes, is more when you crash, the impact is hard. So I always advise people, start little by little. Learn to, and I know people that have done businesses where they just gone franchise, massive thing, and then it just suddenly hasn't worked. And then you start to think, of course, because you haven't learned the lessons, fix that, clearly, do this a little bit better, and then gradually, by time, it's experience. Building sustainably requires experience, and it requires starting little by little, I would say. So it is possible. It is possible. It's possible to be someone that you had nothing, you have an idea. A lot of people have ideas. Remember, some people have ideas, some people have money. It's finding ways to connect, finding ways to connect those kind of people. And then that's where the magic happens. But before the person that has the money releases it to you, wants to know your history. He wants to know that I can rely on you and you're going to do it well. Because does that make sense? So that goes for the bank, that goes for venture capitalists, that goes for anybody that is trying to, you're trying to get money from. They want to see your part. What have you done? If I wanted to borrow someone money or something, or a business, I want to see what have you done so far?
It's true. Yeah, true. Very, very true.
It gives you confidence.
Yeah, okay, I know who I'm giving my money to.
Yes.
So in today's economy, is becoming debt-free always the smartest goal? Are there situations where carrying debt makes financial sense?
So I think debt-free is a desire. It's desirable. That's a desired place to be. But not every debt is should be eliminated immediately. Does that make sense? So a lot of it is, if you have a low-cost loan, for example, if you have a mortgage, and I know that the mortgage rates have gone up more recently, but they were quite low. We used to have 1% and all that. If you have extra income if you put it into investment, that investment will give you 5%. Why, if you pay off your mortgage because you want to be debt free, it's only 1%. Does that make sense? So it's working out that financial calculation, but not everything. So not everything is calculation. It goes back to our first conversation about individuals. Some individuals don't like debt and they want to be debt free.
That's true.
Yeah. And it's okay. Everybody should stay in their lane. If that is you, walk towards it, be free, and live your life. If you're someone that your objective is to build wealth and you build it with healthy debt that supports your long-term goals, your long-term financial goals, don't overgear yourself. Don't do too much that you can't pay it off. Don't get to a point where you've got 5 rental properties and then all your tenants are giving you issues, but yet then you don't have any savings to be able to cover. Does that make sense? That's overgearing. We would say it in accounting. You've taken on too much debt and you can't service it all. So I think the answer to that question is it's desirable, but some people will fall under I don't want debt, I just want to live within my means. Fantastic. And for those that want to carry some debt, make sure you're carrying a sensible and unhealthy debt. Not credit cards, not car loans that you cannot pay off. Don't overexert yourself in terms of your mortgage where you have a big house that you're paying £3,000 a month mortgage and you're only earning £2,000. It does not make sense. Yeah. So,
that's not wise. That's not wise. That's not wise. Okay, this question has been coming to me since we started.
Yeah.
And it baffled me. Why is it that some people, they tell you they have 5 properties, 6 properties, but they are still broke? Why?
I think it goes back to what we said about finances don't lie. Sometimes when we overgearing, when we've done those businesses, we have not done the calculations well. And sometimes it was working well before. So a good example is when the interest rate was low. But now interest rate has doubled, your mortgage payment has now increased. You can't increase that to your tenants. There's only a limit that you can do. So that's where some of those people struggle. So they're using their own personal money to cover those properties. My advice is sell it if you can. Rid yourself of the stress, because at the end of the day, it's all about season. Investment is seasonal. So if it's working in certain areas, and it could be area driven as well. Some properties are in areas where it's difficult to rent and it's difficult to increase the rental income. So there's a lot of what's the word? There's a lot of factors, and that shouldn't surprise you, I would say.
Wow, thank you. If every viewer could remember just one lesson about borrowing money after watching this show, what would you want that lesson to be? So, never borrow to impress anybody. that's a good one. Not impressing nobody.
Yeah, money is a wonderful servant. It's a wonderful servant and is a wonderful tool, but it's not a very good master. So you need to be careful how much you borrow, because it can be, we talked about it, it's overwhelming, mental health, insomnia, anxiety, clashes within the home, lack of peace when you borrow too much. And always borrow with the future in mind. That it's whatever you're borrowing is to help you gain that plan that you had in the future. So if the plan, for example, is I would like to own my own home, you've put down the deposit, then obviously a mortgage is a good debt that you can have at a reasonable interest rate that you can pay off. You've looked at your finances, your income, you can pay it off, is cheaper than your rent, then go for it, because it helps you with that long-term goal. And lastly, I just wanted to say that I do remember now the organization that I was going to mention is Citizens Advice Bureau. And they have a lot of templates that people can use when you have challenges with your lenders. There are templates that is there on their website that you can use. You can obviously contact them. It's for free to give you some advice on what to do. But don't hide. Don't put your head in the sand that is going to go away. Make a decision, that you're going to do things differently. Cut those habits. Go to counseling if you need to. Find an accountability partner. Talk to your family. For example, that without example you gave about the husband not working, wife not working, everybody, at the end of the day, everybody has a responsibility. So it's having that conversation and making sure that you're not hiding and everybody is carrying the weight. Because not one person can carry all the weight, especially in this economy anyway.
Thank you so much, my wonderful guest, Mrs. Buki Mogaji, for all the insights you've shared to our audience. The truth about good debt and bad debt. One builds your future, the other quietly drained it. Thank you for joining me once more today. And remember, borrow smart, not just often. When you are borrowing, don't make money. Don't let money be your master.
That's it.
Be the master of the money, because money is a tool. God has given it to us. Proverbs 22:7. He said the borrower is a slave to the lender. We don't want to be a slave to the lender. We want to live smart. We want to borrow smart and use it for. They say use other people's money. But when you are using with common sense. That is that from us today. And to my wonderful guests, thank you so much for all your time and for all the knowledge and impactful insights you've shared. Bye from us now.